of Eden by FREI live on Facebook and on YouTube, and the recorded clips then also can be found on Instagram, IGTV. If you are watching this live, you may find that you're at the normal time, we're already at the tail end of the reading, but I've moved it forward a bit to 1800 hours GMT, as opposed to 1815. It was originally meant to go out at 6 o'clock in the evening on Mondays and Wednesdays. And because the first few times I wasn't quite ready at 6 o'clock, I decided to make the start time 6:15, but now I'm always ready at 6 o'clock, and rather than just wait, I thought I might as well revert to what this was originally meant to be. And since the majority of you, I believe, tend to watch these in your own sweet time afterwards, it doesn't really matter all that much whether we go out at 6 p.m. or at 6:15 p.m. But if this is the case, if you are if you are banking on watching this at 6:15, I do apologize. From now on in, I shall aim to always be on the air, as it were, at 1800 hours, 6 p.m. London time, GMT, whatever that is, where you are. We are in volume 3 of the of Eden by FREI, which is the Snowflake Collector. And as you know, I'm reading from not from the little paperback edition, which of course exists as it does with all the others, little Eden Miniatures edition. I'm reading from the illustrated edition with illustrations by Diego Cassia. And in this chapter, there are a few, and I'm going to show them to you first. And then you will have seen them, and then I don't have to show them to you at the end of the chapter. And so this is what chapter 7 looks like. There are several. I have to try and do this without tearing the page. These are the illustrations in chapter 7, and chapter 7 is called Every Day Brought New Gifts Now. Every day brought new gifts now from the universe. There was Alison and Cassandra, Timothy, Lou, and Lysander. There was tiny Frederick and the majestic Cassiopeia. It snowed for several days, and each day the Snowflake Collector got up with a spring in his step and, before doing anything else of significance, went outside with 3 glass plates prepared, no fewer, no more, and welcomed the snowflakes into his world. Lavinia, Esteban, Roswitha. He had no method, a passion and a beating heart. He had no words to describe these snowflakes he so collected, but he gave them names. Balthasar, Emilio, Blossom, Alexander. That it was easier to let them settle onto dry, cold glass plates, and then fill with just 1 drop of super than it was to catch them into a drop of glue that was already there on the glass before it dried out. He learned he had best cool down the glue too. Once or twice he made a mistake, and instead of a single snowflake, ended up catching a cluster, and sometimes he damaged a snowflake he had caught while applying a dab of glue to it. But with nothing else occupying his mind, and little else making demands on his time, he soon perfected his technique and sharpened his eye for the snowflakes that wanted to be part of his life now, accepted his invitation. He learned to be at ease now with his calling, and considered it an invitation he extended to these snowflakes, a welcome, not a trap, not a prison. And before long, The first of the sturdy wooden cases he had made began to fill up, and when János came to visit him now, and nodded his wordless hello, to be answered by the Snowflake Collector in kind, he found on the table in the Snowflake Collector's very small kitchen, and on the window-sill, and on the short shelf, these glass plates which had in them indescribable treasures, imprints of crystals, characters written by nature. And János brought along now not just his smartphone, but also his camera, for which he had bought a second-hand macro lens online with money he had been given by his mother Yolanda's employer, the inn's landlord, for a few hours' work every day in the kitchen. And he took these glass plates and photographed them, finding new, better ways of taking his pictures each time. When János showed the Snowflake Collector his pictures he took of when János showed the Snowflake Collector the pictures he took of his snowflakes on the display of his camera, the Snowflake Collector felt a well of love surge through his heart. A love for Ramira, Zahir, and Kamala, but also for János, for capturing them in their utter perfection, and for taking the time, and for having the care, and for witnessing what he was doing, and for allowing him to share. He had not, in years, maybe decades, felt a love such as this for another human being, a friend, for the world and that which was in it, and for the soul that infused his existence. And he was grateful, more gracious, more humble for it. More whole, he sensed, than he had ever been. Yes, he was able to say to himself now, looking at the pixels in which snowflakes he had captured was recaptured and re-rendered with such exquisite clarity and detail as his eye alone could never have seen, or let alone shown. I am thus the Snowflake Collector. It is so. No sooner had this thought formed in him, this sensation expanded into his body, this certainty grown in his brain. He also saw that what he was doing was wholly inadequate. He almost felt a rumble of anger thunder up through his chest, but since anger was so alien an emotion to him, so futile, so unnecessary, he allowed it to disperse into a simple dissatisfaction. It will not suffice to do this, he said to himself, and to his unending surprise, and the even greater surprise of János too, he said it out loud. This will not suffice. These snowflakes, they deserve better. These glass plates that I have cut for them, and this case I have built, they are wrong. I cannot flatten these snowflakes. They are not created in 2 dimensions. I have to find a whole new solution. With this, he went around his kitchen and he took each one of the glass plates he'd cut, into which he had already preserved all the snowflakes that made up his collection so far, and he looked at each one and apologized. Anna, Matthias, Rodrigo, Filomena, Lucas. One by one, he held them up before his eyes and bade their forgiveness. You have all been wronged, he told them, as he put them away in the case he had built for them with wood from a fir that had grown on his land by the stream. And he breathed a sigh of deep sorrow and said to János, I will have to start over again. I shall keep them, of course. They are now collected, and to destroy them would be sacrilege, even though I have wronged them. And he took all the glass plates he hadn't yet used and sat down at his kitchen table while Janos was watching in silence, and he started cutting them up, twice each again, and assembled them into cubes. After an hour or so, the Snowflake Collector had made maybe a dozen simple, clean-edged glass cubes, 1 inch by 1 inch by 1, fixed and closed on 5 sides, with the 6th side left open. I will have to, he said to Janos, find a liquid, a gel, something that will preserve these snowflakes just as they are, that won't flatten them, won't deprive them of a dimension. Janos nodded in quiet agreement and said, I'm going to look it up for you. And that's it for today. That's chapter 7 of the Snowflake Collector in Eden by FREI. I shall continue on Wednesday at 6 o'clock, slightly earlier than up until now. Today I made a decision on a whim, and because I was ready, to start at 6 o'clock instead of 6:15. So from now on in, all well, and if things can be wrong, I'll be doing every Wednesday at 6 p.m. London time, 6 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So until next time, I wish you well, keep well and safe and sane, and take good care of yourself, and love and let love, and see you very soon. Bye-bye.